Welcome to the Industrial Hose Show, a Hart Industries podcast where safety meets expertise. Each week, we explore the tips, tools, and technology driving the industrial hose industry forward, from safety best practices to real-world applications. Whether you're in the shop, on the road, or out in the field, we've got the insights you need to keep your operations flowing. Let's get started. All right, welcome to the first episode of Hart's Industrial Hose Podcast. I'm your host, John Spence, and with me today, I've got Greg Carino, the Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Hart Industries, and Kip Hart, the President of Hart Industries himself. This episode is going to be about hose safety awareness, just making sure you're having safe operations, not just when building hose, but when using hose, and making sure we're taking the right steps to have the right hose as well. As our first episode, let's kind of introduce our guest. Greg, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you came to be with Hart Industries.
Well, I started my career in 1988 with a company called OPW, which is now Civicon and OPW combined, basically. And I spent 25 years there total. But Hart Industries was one of our largest distributors in the country. Definitely our largest supplier or user of our fittings that we manufactured at OPW, and quite a large Civicon distributor as well. So I developed a relationship with Kip and the rest of the Hart family and the people there, and I have now spent a total of about 12, almost 13 years with Hart Industries total. So still working with my prior company, selling their equipment, but having a lot more fun on this end of the business, dealing with the actual end users.
Awesome. I love that. Awesome. And then Kip, President of Hart Industries, tell me a little bit about, what you do and how you've come so far in this.
Well, I kind of was baptized by fire. I never planned to be a hose man. Wasn't on my ambitious list of things I'd like to become, but the fact that my father had started the company when I was 11 and put me to work pushing a broom, and I guess I was the chief sanitation engineer at that point, in charge of cleaning all things that need to be cleaned, and have done just about every job between that one and the one I have today. From building, assisting in the hose build shop, spent time in the weld shop. Delivered a lot of products to a lot of places. Was fortunate to be able to go into a lot of areas of different types of manufacturing facilities through those years. It really helped is when I entered into sales, which kind of found my niche there. And I've always had the gift of gab. And my dad always said I was able to talk myself into an order and out of an order in the same conversation. So I have had a lot of practice trying to hone those talents and shed the liabilities. But yeah, we grew the company to 8 branches that are servicing thousands of customers from coast to coast and border to border, and we're happy to be here on the show today.
Awesome. Sweet. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for joining. There's so much industry knowledge between the two of you. I'm really excited to get in and see how we can help everybody, be safe about this. As a NAHAD distributor, I think it's really important that I mention that this week is NAHAD's Hose Safety Awareness Week, or at least the week that this podcast will be launching. Lots of distributors and manufacturers are getting together to kind of help just be aware of things we could do to prevent accidents and make sure all our guys are safe. Cool. I do want to touch and highlight on the importance of hose safety and kind of present an example of, things that can go wrong. Kip, do you have any real world stories about any customers or anybody you know of that had some sort of hose accident and, didn't get to handle it very well?
Well, we've been exposed to an array of hose problems. I kind of liken Hart to the farmer's insurance commercial, where if if it's going to happen or has had happened, we've seen it already, and it pretty much spans a pretty broad array. We specialize in the fabrication and distribution of primarily hazardous material handling hoses, although we do get into all different types of industrial hose, and kind of concentrate our efforts in the bulk distribution and transfer type of applications. So we have encountered many issues that exemplify how important every aspect of safety is with the not only the building of the hoses in the shop as we're producing them, but more importantly, the quality control measures that are in place to ensure that the incoming products are flawless and that the process of fabrication is consistent and correct, and that our testing is thorough and documented, and that all the hoses that we fabricate for severe duty or material transfer are thoroughly inspected and tested and certified before they go out of our shop. It's one of the building blocks that we started on, and then as we evolved into these industry sectors where all types of materials are handled, we became acutely aware of the ramifications of what happens when a hose fails, and it a failed hose can cause damage to property. It can cause injury. In some cases, it can cause death. And we've taken that very seriously and built strong alliances within our customer base with not only the people responsible for procuring hose assemblies, but also the people involved in the safety programs at our customers, within our customers' organizations, and that we understand their concerns and that we are addressing those concerns and staying diligent in our efforts to make sure that Hart's hoses aren't only the best hoses out there, but they're the safest hoses out there. And we have earned a very good reputation in both respects.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always heard that a quality hose is a safe hose. So having those go hand in hand is very important. You did mention that, hose safety begins even before the hose is created. Greg, we follow this method called the stamped method when trying to select these hoses. Can you kind of go into the stamped method and kind of what the acronym means?
Yeah, so the type of hose you use for the application it's very important that you know certain things of what's going on before you select the hose. So stamped is an acronym. The S is for size. So it's important to know the size and the length of the hose. The T is for temperature. Is it ambient? Is it going to be cold? Is it going to be hot? So have the right liner for the hose. A is the application. Are you loading the tank truck? Are you loading the rail car? Are you pumping from one tank to another tank? Is this in a building? Is it outside to certain, is it, weather related issues? The M is for media. What's going through the hose? There's a big difference between water and, as Kip would say, methyl ethyl death. You got to know what's going through the hose. You select the right liner, the right cover, whatever you need. P is for pressure. It's a big difference between 0 PSI and 300 PSI. Got to make sure you have the right hose selected for that. E is for ends. The ends are very important. You can put really cheap ends on a really good hose, and now you don't have such a great hose. So you can pick the great hose and put a good end on it. I mean, if you look at what a hose is doing, it's going from a big sturdy metal container, some type of tank, probably to another tank. And the weakest link is between those two metal big containers. And you want to make sure you have the right hose and the right ends that are coupled tightly, that are made of quality, that they won't egg shape. So the ends are very important. And then we are to D is basically when do you need it, the delivery of the hose. So that's the stamp method. And all of our inside salespeople, all of our salespeople ask all these questions before we even entertain what type of hose to use.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's super important because any one of these fails, I mean, then you just can't use it. It's not proper after that. So we've kind of talked about what to do before fabrication, and then after we make the hose and stuff, I think it's really important that we're maintaining it, getting the biggest life out of it. Kip, do you have any inspection or maintenance tips that people can apply to make sure they get the full life out of their hose?
Well, yes, we have. We started our our program, building and shipping hoses. We found that they were going out to all different areas in the country. We didn't often know exactly what kind of services they would be going in as much as we would try to find out. And in those days, most of our customers were delivery services of bulk materials, and they didn't always know what they were going to be picking up to deliver. And so we began to understand pretty quickly how vulnerable these hoses are, and how important after the sales service in the form of education of our customers, service in the form of diligence of our salespeople that are dealing with these customers, and how prevalent the hose safety issue becomes, uh, even more so than during the build and shipping process. It's the real rubber hitting the road comes when the hose goes into service, and what rigors it's going to see in those services. So hoses, like Greg touched on, are the weakest link usually in a transfer chain, and they only become weaker with time. In time isn't the only element here. People want to know, how long is the hose supposed to last? And that's an impossible question to answer, because you have to know all the different things that are going to happen to it once it goes into service. And those can be many different things, and a lot of which are abusive to the hose and do affect the hose's um, longevity. So our focus is trying to bring the knowledge to our customers of what exactly they should be looking for in a hose that might be vulnerable to failure. And many of the signs are visibly available if people take the time to look for them. So we try to make sure we identify every aspect of what a hose weakness might look like, and try to encourage our customers to teach all their people the same thing. And we do so by doing on-site training sessions, and work one-on-one with our customers trainers. So we like to train the trainer. That's our favorite part, because then they have much better access to their employees than we do on an ongoing basis. And in today's workplace, with the high turnover rates in a lot of companies, that ongoing training has become all the more important. So, at after the sales service is very important, in picking a hose supplier that is aware of what the potential problems are going to be before you encounter them is invaluable. And that's one of the things that has given us such an edge in the market, is we have this vast experience with all these potential problems, because we see them. We get a lot of hoses in for inspection that aren't even made by Hart, but because we're servicing that customer, we'll do dissections and inspections and analysis, and be able to come back to them with what the probable causes of failure are, and what the corrective actions to try to prevent that failure from ever happening again are. So
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. Kind of aside from the hose, I wanted to get into some of the fittings part of it, because um although I don't know quite as much as you guys about hose, I do know that um the hose is rated to the weakest part of the hose. So Greg, do you have any insights or anything about finding the correct fittings or any important tips for safety in regards to fittings?
Well, I mean, like I stated earlier, the hoses, you can have the best hose in the world and you can put a cheap end on it. It's not the best hose in the world anymore. So, yeah, you got to stick with quality on fittings. Hart has always prided ourselves in putting quality ends on any hoses that we're hauling, that we're using hazardous materials. There's a lot of imported metals coming in from various countries that aren't so great, that a lot of companies are using because they're cheap to keep the price of the overall hose down. And you can't veer from that. We use quality ends that are actually, many of the ends we use. The biggest part of them is they have quality arms on them. They have safety features on the arms that we won't go into all the details on that, but we have safety features on our arms that will allow the hoses. There's a lot of vibration in applications, and cheap arms tend to vibrate off and blow the hose off. And we pride ourselves in using ends that, if there's vibration, our hoses with the arms we use will actually seal better before they'll pop off. So it's very important to choose a quality, tough end, that won't ding, that won't egg shape, that will stay on the hose with the pressures that it's rated at, or stay on the application with the pressures that it's rated at. And it's just a lot of people don't do it. A lot of companies do, and Hart will not veer from that.
Awesome. Yeah, appreciate that. I think we get so wrapped up in the hose, the actual tube it's going through, that we forget that media is also going through the fittings themselves. So it's very, very important when selecting a hose to think about every part of the assembly itself. All right. Last question right here for you, Kip, real quick. I think it's really important to touch on, maintaining hoses. Do you have any tips on the safe operation and particularly storage of hoses?
Yeah, the hoses should be treated like any asset. You want to understand what will damage them, and then try to protect them from those kinds of damages. And with hoses, it can be any as simple as a forklift running around on your premises that might run into a hose or over it, keeping them out of the way and up and off the ground, and where they're not going to get bumped or scraped. The some things that can be easily overlooked, like the exposure to ozone and weathering, is also that will cause deterioration and aging of the hose prematurely if it's left out in the elements too much. Although most hoses these days, over the modern history, there's been a lot of new rubber compounds that our hoses are made from that stand up to a lot of the weathering type of deterioration, more so than in years gone by. But it's still good if you can keep them out of the sun in a climate controlled environment, for storage. The some of the bigger problems we see out there are the way the hoses are cleaned after use. And so it's always advisable to try to hoses are really made, transfer hoses are made for intermittent loading and unloading processes. And oftentimes the same hose might be used for dissimilar products. So it's very important to drain thoroughly and then decontaminate hoses between use before putting them in storage, because certain chemicals that may be fine during a transfer may not be that fine if it's laying in the hose for long periods of time. So without having to go to the most expensive grades of hose, like stainless steel, corrugated stainless steel, or Teflon line, the intermediate and more popular grades of hose for chemical service and petroleum products have liners that are perfectly suitable for normal transfer operations, but should be drained after use and flush free of any residue and and then before they go into storage. So handling is mostly done by the people that are doing the loading and unloading processes. So it's important that they understand how important it is to try not to drag your hoses over abrasive surfaces that can wear the hose from the outside. If hoses have to be used in environments where those elements are going to be present, there are protective covers that hoses can be supplied with to enhance the life expectancy. Anytime a hose is subjected to any severe shock or elevated temperature, if it's been exposed to a product that's above the maximum rated allowable temperature, they should always be closely inspected and possibly pressure tested after any severe event and before they're put back into service. But it's, a lot of common sense there, but you'd be surprised. Some people just don't know any better unless they're shown or taught. And hose, there's design parameters that have to be adhered to. Every hose is designed with a minimum bend radius. And some people think that just because you can bend a hose much tighter than what that minimum bend radius might be, that all is good. But all isn't good, because those design, that as hoses have evolved, they've become lighter and more flexible, but they're also easier to bend beyond the minimum bend radiuses. And those can cause other kinds of damages inside of the hose that may not be visible to the naked eye. And so it's important that people understand what the limitations of the hoses are with their minimum bend radiuses, and especially the big items like the maximum allowable working pressure, and just as important, and in some cases more important, the maximum allowable working temperature. And one thing you won't see much in publications that a lot of people don't take into consideration is a hose that is rated for a pressure is done so typically at room temperature, which is approximately 72 degrees is the median ambient temperature. As you go into high temperature products, rubber hoses or hoses that are constructed with a rubber carcass and a thermoplastic or some other type of inner lining have a pressure drop that as far as what their actual rating is for, goes down as temperature goes up, and it becomes more radical when you get above 120 degrees, and it becomes very severe when you get above 200 degrees. So it's important to know that your temperature rating on your hose, it's as important to know that as it is the pressure rating of the hose. And so.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much. I think those are some really great insights about operations and storage. I think that's all we've got today, guys, but thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Greg and Kip, thank you guys so much for being here. You guys have so much knowledge, and I'm so glad we get to share this with everybody else. In the description below, I'll have resources from NAHAD and some of our products at hose.com. If you're looking to up your safety game, we're here to help. Above all else, Hart's committed to safety and making sure, your transfer is successful and safe. If you guys have any questions, please drop them in the comments below. And thanks for being here. Have a good one. Bye.
Thanks, John. Bye now.
Thank you, John.
Hart Industries, the most trusted name in tank truck hose.